Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for being here for this introduction to certification assessments with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and for also the support with our partners from the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, who will be providing some support for two of our local champions who will be going for bronze for the January deadline. So today I'll give like a quick overview, and then we'll hear from Kelsey West and Tara Donadio about the process of working together. But first, let's start off with some introductions. Maybe Paige and I go first, and then we'll call on somebody, and then you can call on the next person. So I'm Vanessa Bertozzi, and I'm the co-director along with Paige of the Local Champions Program. And this is our second year. We're so thrilled to have such a great group. We had an awesome orientation last week where we got to be in person together. It was lovely. So I'm really excited about this and excited about today, because this is really, I like to call it the backbone of the Local Champions Program. It really is bringing in technical assistance and expertise to partner with you all. And I'm in the village of Rhinebeck. Paige.
Hi, I'm Paige Ruane, and I'm in the town of Austerlitz, and I'm a co-director of the Local Champions Program with Vanessa, and I'm a co-founder of Partners for Climate Action. And I'm also just so happy this day has come. We met all the champs last week, and they seem like such a great group, and this has been long in coming in the planning, so we're just thrilled this day is here. So welcome, everyone. And I'll call on Kelsey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey West, and I am the Climate Change and Natural Resources Program Coordinator at CCE Columbia Green. You'll be hearing a lot from me later, so I'll just pass it off to Audrey Kropp.
Hi, everyone. I'm Audrey Kropp. I also work with Kelsey here at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Columbia and Greene counties. And we've been doing a lot of work in Columbia and Greene, trying to get folks engaged with the Climate Smart Communities program. So I look forward to continuing that work and working with everyone. Oh, I'll call on the next person in line here. Or why don't I call on our team leader, Connor Young.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is Cornell Cooperative Extension, Columbia Green, all in a row. So I'm Connor Young. I'm, like Audrey said, I'm the team leader for climate change, ag, natural resources. I'm primarily based in Acre at our Agroforestry Resource Center, but I also spend a good amount of time in the Hudson, our Hudson office as well. I really pretty much support Kelsey and Audrey through and through. So you can always reach out to me if there's anything you need. Otherwise, I'm really excited to kick off year 2. So congratulations, everyone. And yeah, Carolyn, another CCE partner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Clacker. I'm the Environment and Energy Program Leader at Cornell Cooperative Extension in Dutchess County. Our offices are located in Millbrook, but we support all of Dutchess County's municipalities and the work that they're doing, both under climate change and climate resiliency related to what you all are going to be working on as part of the Climate Smart Communities program. But we also provide training, education, and outreach on natural resource management, land use planning, and we have a very robust energy program that serves the entire Mid-Hudson region, and will be growing over the next couple months as well. And I'm participating in this program to support Anna and Jillian in their efforts to work with you all on their Climate Smart Communities assessments. So I'm going to pass it off to, I'm going to change it up and go from somebody who's not CCE, and I'm going to pick Meg.
Okay, worked. My name is Meg Tedisco, and I'm part of the program from the village of Valatia. And I know that Stephanie is on the call too, and she is representing the municipality for the village of Valatia. And Happy to be with such a great group, and thank you for the stuff you've been sending me, Audrey. I really appreciate it. It's very helpful. And I will pass it along to Bill Mancini. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Meg. Hi, I'm Bill Mancini. I'm from the village of Kinderhook, and we're striving for a bronze certification. I've been the chair of the Climate Smart Community Task Force since 2016, and we've accomplished some things, but we need to accomplish a lot more as far as I'm concerned. And I hope to get some pointers from everyone here, all these experts. Thank you. And I'll pass it on to another cohort of mine, Melissa Miller.
Thanks, Bill. I'm Melissa Miller, and I am with the town of Kinderhook. I have only been on the Climate Smart committee for a short time, but gotten a lot of work done. So I'm excited to be part of this program. And I know that another one of our task force members, Mark Lining, is on the call with us. So I guess, Mark, I'll call on you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Apologize for my wife's name being on here, but for some reason it won't. We share this email, and for some reason it's not allowing me to rename it. So I'm not Jill. I'm Mark Lanning, and I am on the Kinderhook town of Kinderhook climate smart climate task force. So I'll let it go with that for now.
Mark, you want to pick somebody to go next?
Oh, sure. Let's see. I saw Bill. Okay. I will. I'll just go to the person right next to me on my screen, which is Paige Ruan.
I actually already introduced myself.
Oh, okay. See, I got on late, so now I'm at a bit of a disadvantage here. How about Kelsey West? Did she introduce herself yet?
I did.
Don't ask me to pick anyone else. I'm just drawing this out too long.
All right, how about we go to Stacy Mantle?
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I'm blurry up.
Looks like you're having a nice steam bath, Stacy.
I don't know what's happening. Yeah, so I am from the town of Menia. I'm on the CAC. We are yet to formalize a task force. And that's, one of the first things we're going to be doing. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of jumping in the water without knowing how to swim. So I really want to do so much. And this is going to really help me. Yeah, so we're moving right ahead. And just to plug out for this great infrastructure bill reduction act that just passed. I'm very happy about that. And I'm going to tag Genevieve, if you didn't go yet, from Millbrook.
Okay. I'm just unmuting. Hi, I'm Genevieve. I am a climate action coordinator in the village of Millbrook, and very excited to be here. Can't wait to learn more. Thank you. And I think I'm going to select one of my stakeholders in the village of Millbrook, Mike Herzog. Mike, are you there?
Trying to unmute.
There I go. All right, good. I'm Mike Herzog. I'm on the board of trustees for the village of Millbrook, and I'm going to be the liaison back to the board and look forward to working with Genevieve on getting moving along on our certification process to get to the bronze status in the climate smart communities level, and looking forward to working with Carolyn Clocker and others again, because that's been a relationship with helping one another for many, many years. So I'm excited to be here. Look forward to it.
Great. Why don't we have?
And I'll pass it along to let's see, to somebody who has not been picked already, because all of my gallery here is pretty filled. let's see, how about Stephanie Carradine?
Hi. I'm Stephanie Carradine Rochelle. I'm the Code Enforcement Officer and Building Inspector for the Village of Valatia. And looking forward to getting Valatia closer to bronze in our Climate Smart Community Program. We've done really well with the Clean Energy Community Program, but that's kind of easy. So the Climate Smart is way more difficult. So looking forward to some help in getting us to that point, and looking forward to Meg stepped up to the plate and is going to hopefully represent our village very well. So looking forward to working with you guys. And let's see, how about Joanne?
Hi, I'm Joanne Warren from the town of Shongam, built of the hamlet of Walk Hill. I'm new to this and I'm ready to go. And I'll call on Connor.
Oops, Connor already went. Why don't we do Vicky Doyle? And I'll pick from now on since we're now getting down to it. Go ahead, Vicky. Oh, maybe she's not there. How about Jillian? How about you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I am Jillian Matthews. I'm going to be serving as the Natural Resources Educator for the CCE of Ulster County and simultaneously working with the Dutchess County office as well. I'm very excited to be here. I literally just started yesterday. So I am here to learn and I'm very excited to meet you all.
Great. Thanks, Jillian. How about Anna?
Hello, I'm Anna. I'm environmental educator and NCLI coordinator for Dutchess County. And I also just started a couple of months ago, but I'm very excited to join the team here. And I came from Columbia Green, so I see a lot of familiar faces, which is really fun. But yeah, excited.
Vicky, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm Vicki Doyle. I'm a town councilwoman for Town of Amenia, and I'm working closely with Stacy Mantle, who is our local champion, and I'm basically acting as a liaison between Stacy and the town board to make sure all of our lines of communication are as clear and open as possible, and fetching information where needed, and happy to be helpful wherever I can.
Great, great. How about Deborah?
Hi, everyone. I'm Deborah Conrad. I'm representing the town of Chatham. And we're really excited to hopefully get to bronze certification by the end of the year. So looking forward to working with all of you in the future.
Great. Teddy.
Hi, I'm Teddy Secor. I represent the town of Stanford for the local champions program. We are excited to finally take part in this, and we are trying to learn some things. We're amateurs at this, but that's kind of the fun and learning, is we're going to go through with it and achieve something, I think. So we're excited as a town to really get our feet in the water with this.
Great. Thank you, Teddy. How about, let's see, Steph Herbstritt?
Sure. Hi, I'm Steph Herbstritt. I'm the Livestock and Natural Resources Educator with CCE in Ulster County. And I've been helping some of our communities with their Climate Smart Communities assessment. And I'm excited to be here today. Great to meet you all.
Great. Thanks for coming. And is that Tom Payno? I think you're tap-in on my screen.
Okay. Yes, it's Tom Payno. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Tom Payno, and I'm the CSC committee chair for the village of Philmont, where we have already accomplished quite a number of credits. It's just a bit disorganized, and so I'm looking forward to bring it all into a better organization so we can continue from here. So really, really glad to be here.
Great, great. Thank you. And Joseph. Joseph, I think you're still muted.
Yes, I'm Joseph Kozlowski. I'm a Village of Catskill trustee. I'm on the Climate Smart Committee and also on our LWRP. We were very close to our bronze just before COVID hit, and then when COVID hit, everything ceased. So we're trying to attain that through this now.
Great. Okay, and then Tara. I think last but not least, we have Tara.
Hi, everybody. Tara Donadio. I know some of you, a lot of you I don't. So I work for the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. We support municipalities with climate smart and clean energy communities programs in the 8-county capital region, which is a very large area, but I've got a team here, so it's not just me. I'm going to be working with Village of Kinderhook and Town of Chatham to help them hopefully just really get right over the certification threshold in this January deadline and get some points there. So I'm really excited.
Great. Thanks, everyone. It's a great group here. So a little bit of introduction, and then Kelsey's going to take the screen. Cornell Cooperative Extensions of Dutchess County, Ulster, Columbia Green, and the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, we really look to them as two of the main mechanisms through which state programs like Climate Smart Communities and Clean Energy Communities are able to engage with these your local communities in this area. Cornell Cooperative Extension has locations in each New York county, though some are combined, like Columbia Green, and staff who are then dedicated to serving those territories and the local population. Both have become just crucial resources that municipalities can turn to get training and support, especially when working through climate smart communities actions. And in designing local champions, we knew that partnering with CCE and CDRPC, a lot of acronyms starting with C, would be one of the most valuable aspects of the program. And so we partnered in order for them to lead 8 of you through this certification assessment process, a process that Kelsey's going to get into today. And then we also partnered with CDRPC for, as she mentioned, Bill in the Village of Kinderhook and Deborah in Chatham to get to that bronze filing process. So this cohort together combined with 10, the 8 of you will get to take a peek at what it's like to actually go through that bronze filing process, kind of vicariously through Bill and Deborah. So that's exciting. Paige?
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. And so as most of you probably know, Module 1 of our program, Local Champions, consists of individual meetings you champs will have with the staff person each of you are respectively paired with from either Cornell or Capital District. So I'll now list out which Cornell or Capital District staff members are paired with which local champions. So from Columbia County, Bill Mancini from the Village of Kinderhook and Deborah Conrad from the Town of Chatham will both be working with Tara Donadio, as she mentioned, from Capital District. Meg Tedisco from the Village of Wallachia and Melissa Miller from the Town of Kinderhook will both be working with Audrey Kropp from Cornell. Tom Pano from the Village of Philmont and Margaret Tomlinson from the Village of Catskill in Greene County will both be working with Kelsey West from Cornell. In Dutchess, Stacy Mantell from the Town of Amenia and Genevieve Glasson from the Village of Millbrook will both be working with Jillian Matthews from Cornell. Teddy Sikor from the Town of Stamford will be working with Anna Harad McGrew from Cornell. And in Ulster County, Joanne Warren from the Town of Shamgum will be working with Melinda Herzog from Cornell. And so I will now drop this list in the chat along with staff emails so that you all have them.
Yeah, and for our local champs, this list is also posted on a tab for this event on the HVCAN websites for your reference, but Paige, go ahead and share it right now for instant gratification.
Right, so you have it in multiple places. Also here for our partners from the local champions emails, which I will also just drop into the chat. Oops. Okay, there you go. So starting tomorrow after this introductory presentation about the process you'll engage in together, your individual Cornell or Capital District person will be reaching out to you, Chance, to schedule recurring working sessions. And we encourage you to have one meeting together with them and your stakeholders before August 19th, and then begin regular meetings after Labor Day. And for this session, we wanted to get you to meet the Cornell and Capital District staff members, hear about what brings them to this work and how your collaboration will run. We've asked Cornell to explain how the certification assessment process was developed and what those of you who will be engaging in this process will get out of it, and that's 8 of you. We've asked them to share examples from certification assessments they've done in the past to demystify the process a bit for you. And additionally, we've asked our partners from Capital District to explain their work and what those of you engaging with them can expect from your collaboration. And then we will do a Q&A. So now, without further ado, Kelsey from Cornell will give a presentation explaining what the certification assessment process is and entails. So Kelsey, take it away.
Hi, everybody. So it is really great to be here and meet all of you. And thank you so much for Paige and Vanessa for the introductions. We're really excited to be here with you this morning to kind of kick off our Climate Smart Communities certification assessment process. So like Paige mentioned, I'll give you a little bit of a background about who we are in the context of this work, talk about what you can expect during the process, and also provide some tips and tricks of the trade. So moving right on with kind of who we are as Cornell Cooperative Extension, we are a subordinate government agency associated with Cornell University, and this has been since the establishment of land-grant colleges in the late 1800s through the Morrill Act. So this act provided states with public lands to create agricultural colleges. And then in the late 1900s, the federal government established a network of cooperative extensions throughout the entire United States. And this helped connect research that was happening at these land-grant universities with each state's agricultural operators and also farmers. And since then, extension resources have grown to include a lot of other topic areas. So for example, the environmental program areas that allow us to be here helping you today. Also things like nutrition and family and consumer sciences. But like it was mentioned before, each county has a CCE extension, and I already forgot to move on to the next slide, so sorry about that. But each county has kind of different offerings, and we all take the research of Cornell University and other land-grant universities and disseminate resources, tools, and education for residents, volunteers, and municipalities. So like I said, our programs and resources kind of vary between counties, so feel free to look at the links and see what your extension might offer besides this program. So especially as land-grant colleges were funded from profits from lands that have been forcefully acquired from Indigenous peoples, we just like to take a minute to acknowledge the history that occurred before us through land acknowledgement. So this includes being mindful that the land that we're currently on was the homeland of Indigenous peoples who stewarded this land. And in our region, the Munsee, the Mohican, the Wappingers, the Warana-Wonkong, and the Wawarsing are the Indigenous tribes that mainly populated Columbia, Greene, Ulster, and Dutchess counties. And the place that we call home are their homelands. So if you're interested in exploring a little bit more about the Native peoples who originally inhabited these lands, there's a link at the bottom of this slide. It's a link to Native Land Digital, which includes Indigenous territories, trees, and languages on a map. It's really kind of cool to look at. So take a look if you're interested in that. So we are able to support these climate smart communities assessments through our CCE Climate Resilience Partnership. So this CCE partnership has existed since 2012, and it involved a collaborative of Mid-Hudson region CCEs. So now it's made up of Dutchess, Columbia and Green, Ulster, Rockland, and Rensselaer counties. And the goal of our partnership is really to support municipalities with climate resiliency planning efforts. Originally, this work, it was started in a response to flooding that occurred after some severe storms, so Sandy, Irene, and Lee. But over the years, we've expanded to include actions in the Climate Smart Communities program. So we at first kind of focused on Pledge Element 7 actions, which address climate resilience and adaptation. But from there, we started providing direct support to municipalities that wanted to apply to the Climate Smart Communities program. And this is kind of how we started conducting these certification assessments that we'll be doing with you all. So since 2018, when we really started honing in on this Climate Smart Communities program, and actually by the end of 2022, our climate resilience partnership will have worked with a total of 48 communities, and that's not including yours. I'm sorry, so we'll bump up the numbers next time. And we have completed 84 individual climate smart communities actions. We have completed 19 climate smart communities assessments, and also we've provided submission assistance so people can directly file for bronze or silver certification with 9 different communities. And we estimate that through completing these actions, we've helped about 18, if not more, communities in some way achieve climate smart community certification. So we're very excited to help your communities as well. So we developed the certification assessment process as a way to support municipalities on their journey to achieve certification. And ease what can sometimes be a really steep learning curve when you begin this program. So the assessment is basically a step-by-step method to investigate which actions, and there are over 100 different climate smart communities actions, so it's very robust. So we look to see what actions have been completed, which are in progress, and which could become recommendations for either the short term or the long term. So we determine this through a series of facilitated meetings with you and a group of municipal stakeholders that you'll help identify. And this assessment also includes community goal setting, which aligns with climate action and resilience needs of your community. So once we're completed, the assessment can help you identify a pathway forward in the program, and it also helps you and your task force members become a little bit better organized for when you begin to complete actions and get information together to submit for certification. And once you complete this module, you will be provided with an Excel Climate Smart Communities Assessment working file and also a finalized certification assessment report. So the working file, which we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into in a moment, this is what helps us track those completed, in progress, or recommended actions. And it's a really useful tool for organizing notes, keeping track of the status of documents, and maintaining a contact list for each actions point person. So this is a living document, and it'll be continued to transform and be updated as we're working through this process. But you can also continue to use it as a tool after we're done here. So it's really helpful in kind of staying organized and tracking your points. The certification assessment report, however, is a summary of that entire process. So it'll be created based on that working file, and it provides clear information on mandatory and priority actions, and estimates points that you may have achieved towards bronze or silver certification. It also identifies next steps, and each action that we recommend or include also outlines some justification for why each action was identified and included in this process. So we'll take a look at this slide. So on the top, I'm sure everybody at this point has maybe explored the Climate Smart Communities portal a little bit. So the top is an image of what some of the actions look like in the Climate Smart Communities portal. And on the bottom, you're looking at an image of our certification assessment, or just a little chunk of it rather, of the working file. So we saw a need for this kind of Excel sheet because in the portal, you're really limited as far as what you can do to plan for these actions. So you'll see on the top image, there are those little buttons that say unplanned. You really only have the option of listing actions as unplanned, in progress, or completed. So it's really not super helpful to do any substantial planning efforts. So with this Excel sheet, however, it's really easy to play around with it, track points, and also just understand kind of the extent to which you've completed an action. So I also wanted to point out that we have that section for contact information for a point person for each action. And this can be really helpful as you're starting to track down those documents, kind of knowing who might house that information and who you can reach out to. It's also worth noting that each action has a range or can have a range of points. So you have points designated to each action. Some of them, like this infrastructure for bicycling and walking action, have a range. This one has a range of 2 to 12 points, depending on what you've kind of completed. So this assessment will kind of take a look at those tiered points and will narrow down and show you how many points are possible, and how many you think you'd receive based on what you've completed. So when you scroll down to the bottom of the Excel sheet, you will see your estimated points that you'll receive. And that's based on kind of that narrowed down number. So you can really understand where you fall in the grand scheme of the program. You need 120 points for bronze certification. And that's to even press the submit button to have your application reviewed. So our goal is to try to get you as accurate of a number so you understand where you fall. There's nothing worse than getting your certification deadline and finding that you're a little short. So we're really working on getting you an accurate number so you don't miss that opportunity. So moving on to the certification assessment report. So this is an image of what the finalized certification assessment report would look like. This is a really great tool if you want to quickly share information about the Climate Smart Communities program, its requirements, and also where the town might stand in the program, or town or municipality, and also outlines those next steps. So it's really useful to share the bigger picture with people who weren't kind of involved in this process already. So if you have town board members or municipal staff who may not have participated in your stakeholder group, but they want to be clued into kind of where you stand, this is great to very quickly share that information with them. It's also helpful as you're starting to establish your Climate Smart Communities task forces to really kind of give them the quick rundown so they understand what's going on and you can more quickly move into completing actions and doing what you all want to do. So the first part of this report is a summary, and this serves as just a snapshot of the Climate Smart Communities program, the assessment process, and then the results of that assessment. So this is where you'll just quickly learn about the context of the program, how many points, what the requirements are, and also how many priority actions have been completed. You need to complete 3 priority actions in addition to that 120 point threshold. So with this context, you know, you can report quickly and move on to the, excuse me, sorry. So we, after the summary, move on to a next steps portion of the assessment. And the next steps are really to advise municipal stakeholders on a realistic timeline of when you might be completing these actions, where you can focus momentum, and also it highlights specific actions that might be underway already. So that would include any customized recommendations that we come up with during kind of the facilitated meetings in that process. So for those getting started, we move on to mandatory recommended actions for bronze level certification. So those are just having your task force and your coordinator together. We also include completed actions, and those are just what they sound like, but we also include information on what needs to be submitted, and also gives you an action time frame when it was completed. So it's really helpful information to know if you need to track down documents for those completed actions. We also include those in progress actions. You may have done some foundational steps towards completing something, but it's not quite wrapped up. And that's where we'll include those actions. But we also, different from the completed actions, will include why they're included in this section and what you need to obtain points for that. And then lastly, we have our recommended actions, and those are your goal setting actions. So they're usually laid out from 1 to 5 years down the line. And we also include suggested funding sources for both in progress and prioritized recommended actions to assist you in completing those if it's applicable. So I'll note that some municipalities that we wrap up the assessment with, they're in a really good place to be able to submit right away for certification, but others find that they have a little bit more work to do and it could take maybe a year to get things together. But either way, the goal of this is really to help you get familiarized with those actions, and also just organize to find a pragmatic approach to the Climate Smart Communities program. So I mentioned earlier that you include a group of municipal stakeholders in this process. It's really great to see some folks from your municipalities that you might be working with on the town board and planning departments already on this call. That's really wonderful to see. So when our team was initially brainstorming who we might want to typically involve in this process, we thought it could be helpful to group collaborators into primary and secondary categories. So those primary collaborators, they're people who will have a direct involvement in those facilitated meetings, going over the working document, and also they'll be reviewing our draft report and providing feedback and participating in those kinds of conversations. It's also important to note that those primary collaborators will have a pretty comprehensive knowledge of your municipality and kind of what they've accomplished already and what the goals of the community might be. So the number of people who you might want to include as primary collaborators might vary, but we typically see folks like a mayor or a town supervisor, CAC members of your Climate Smart Communities Task Force, and also maybe a municipal clerk involved in this process. And I'll put in a little plug here to say that it's really very beneficial to have your municipal clerk involved. They tend to know a lot, but you're also probably going to be interacting with them to track down documentation. So it's nice to have them kind of looped in from the start. So for secondary collaborators, these are individuals who you might have to reach out for a specific subset of questions. So one example could be DPW or highway staff. There are a number of actions that address fleets or maybe something that's been done in the DPW building. And you might want to pull out those questions and find a separate time where we can address it with those folks. They don't have to sit in on every meeting. They're also valuable to maybe send the certification assessment report to get feedback, but they don't necessarily need to be involved as the primary collaborators. So keep in mind that each municipality is unique and everyone has their own capacities and resources. So the combination of collaborators will really vary. It could be anywhere from 2 to 6 people. We've seen a lot of different formats work out, but it's really just important to have you as an engaged point person that can help develop the group and also access information and contacts. So I think that you'll be doing maybe like a Civics 101 lesson, and that's going to be really helpful in kind of understanding your municipality's organizational structure and also kind of identifying and linking up with these collaborators. So moving on, this is just a general guide of how the certification assessment goes. So we already got a little bit of an introduction to this. To kick things off, we'll have an initial meeting with you and your group of collaborators, and that will be before August 19th. And then after Labor Day weekend, we'll start meeting with this group every 2 weeks to work through populating that Excel working file. So it can vary how many times we'll need to meet. It depends on a few different factors, just how many actions you may have completed, kind of your level of understanding of what some of those might be. But on average, it could be anywhere from 3 to 6, maybe hour-long sessions. And once we've gone through that process, we'll go ahead and put together a cleaned up version of that working file. And we'll also start to draft the certification assessment report. And that report, once it's done, we'll share it with you and your collaborators. And we'll ask that you review the report, and then we'll have a discussion to incorporate that feedback. So through that process, we'll finalize the certification assessment, and it's scheduled that will be delivered to you by the end of February, but we're going to try to have that wrapped up a little bit early for you so that you'll be able to use it as a tool as you continue with the local champions program. So maybe December or early January is a more realistic time to look for those. So I'll mention too that in addition to these meetings, the local champions and CCE staff will probably have to communicate beyond those meetings a few times. So that can just be email back and forth as you have questions. Feel free to give us phone calls, really whatever works best for your communication and working style. We're here to answer your questions and help you out. So I'll just remind you now, though, that this is just looking at the holistic picture of what you've completed. We're assessing your progress in these actions, but not directly working on submitting those actions or gathering the documentation. So there are a few ways that you could integrate the local champions program into the assessment process, and how we as CCE staff will be integrating into the local champions program. So we're looking really for you to apply the techniques that and learning content that you're receiving in your cohort to the assessment process. So keep an eye out for those learning opportunities and practice using techniques as opportunities arise. And then we will be kind of integrating into the process by being available to help you with questions about the certification assessment in the Climate Smart Communities program. A CCE staff person will be joining you monthly for your office hour sessions. And then, that's just another way that we'll be there to support you. And, we'll just continue to communicate with you between those meetings and as it's needed and just according to what works best for you. So we also wanted to provide you with some tips for success. So our CCE staff kind of brainstormed these tips. So they're really kind of our insider secrets as we go through the assessment process. The first tip is to actively engage with your stakeholder and collaborator group. So when you're putting your group together, you really want to make sure that you're including folks who are motivated to do this, and they also have the capacity and time to set aside to do it. So it's really important to include those appropriate individuals. The next point, you are our key point person for this process. So we'll really be looking to you to help us really lead these facilitated discussions. Next is that the more thorough you are in completing the assessment, the more prepared you'll be for the rest of your local champions journey. So applying some effort now will go a long way later to keep you organized. So always keep that goal in mind and know that the work that you're doing now is just going to help out down the line. Next, we ask you to encourage sharing of all projects through this process, even if it might not seem relevant at first. So the Climate Smart Communities program is so robust with those 12 pledge elements and over 100 actions. So if something might not seem worth sharing, it might actually apply and fit towards the program, or just be a first step in completing an action. So we see this constantly in the assessment process. So don't be afraid to speak up if you think something might be relevant, and also really help us foster an environment where everyone feels like they can share and contribute through this process. And lastly, maybe most importantly, we really recommend trying to stay on target during this assessment process. Oftentimes we're looking through all the actions and something looks really exciting to your group. So the kind of natural next step is for you to dive in and start planning how you would want to finish that action. And it's always really encouraging to see that kind of enthusiasm. But we're really trying to keep things moving so we can get a more holistic look of where you are in the program. So we'll note that down. If you're really excited about it, it might be a great recommendation to include in your certification report. But at this stage, we're not trying to plan specific projects. And luckily through local champions, there will be opportunities later on to support you in maybe implementing some of those actions. So in addition to those tips, there are often some common pitfalls that you might experience during the process. So we'll just avoid those. The first is to avoid standardization. So your community is unique, and we really want to hone in on actions that fit with your community's goals and they're reflective of your community's priorities. So this will really help later on if you're looking for buy-in from your government officials to complete projects. It's much easier to get support if it's something that aligns with their goals as well. So the second is really just a reiteration of that last slide. Stay on target, don't get distracted, and we're just looking for the bigger picture here. And lastly, we also encourage trying not to overwhelm your community's capacity. So when we're kind of choosing things that you might set as goals for the future, we really want to be realistic about what's achievable over the next few years. And this could look different for each community, but it could be a combination of more long-term foundational projects, which we'll talk about later, or maybe some more attainable low-hanging fruit, as we'll often refer to it. So that moves us on to some of the approaches that you might take towards climate smart communities actions and different tactics that you might take to organize them. So the really cool part about the Climate Smart Communities program is that it's really comprehensive, and there are actions that can be applicable to all types of municipalities, no matter the size and scale. So you see here some maybe different types or different examples of communities that we have in the Hudson Valley. We have pictured here Kingston, Germantown, and Unionvale. So they represent, of course, cities, maybe a village, a rural or suburban town. You also have towns with hamlets, and it might even be a county that's looking for certification. But no matter the size or scale, there is a pathway forward within the Climate Smart Community Certification Program because there's so many varied actions. And you might find that it just might take some extra thoughtful planning and matchmaking. And that's where the CCE staff expertise will kind of come in. So we can help give you some guidance because we worked with a wide range of municipalities on Climate Smart Community certification. And all of those have had different capacities and resources and characteristics. So we're really happy to have those conversations with you about what might be a better fit for your community. So, for example, there are some actions that might apply to a really broad base of communities. For example, complete streets policies, they could apply in both a rural and an urban area. However, there are some actions that are really specific that just might not make sense for you. An example could be nature-based shorelines. That really only makes sense if your municipality is on a river and has a hardened shoreline. So not everything is going to apply to you, but there are so many options that we can find things that will work. And also just know that it's okay to kind of reorganize or group these actions in a way that makes sense for you. And there are a couple of different ways that you can kind of go about thinking about these actions. So one is kind of categorizing them between climate change mitigation actions and climate change adaptation actions. So just to go over that terminology really quickly, climate change mitigation is being proactive to lessen your greenhouse gas emissions. And also offsetting those emissions by doing things like generating carbon sinks or providing greenhouse gas storage opportunities. An example of that could be planting trees, which fits into a Pledge Element 6 action. Climate change adaptation, on the other hand, prepares for the impacts of climate change through adapting our built and social environment and systems. So an example of a climate adaptation action would be maybe relocating structures that are at risk of flooding from sea level rise. So depending on your municipality, you might want to do a combination of these kinds of actions. You might really want to focus on one versus the other. And I'll also note that for climate mitigation actions, we had somebody in the introduction mention that they've completed a lot of clean energy community actions, and those would fall into the mitigation category. So if you've already been focusing on those might make more sense to focus on as you're continuing. So here is just a graphic that demonstrates the topics that could be mitigation or adaptation actions. They're not direct climate smart communities actions, but they all kind of fit together kind of under the same theme. You'll see that there are a few topics that fit into both categories, but all of these kinds of actions are woven through that whole climate smart communities menu. And you'll see them represented all throughout those pledge elements and all throughout the hundreds of actions. So I'll mention though that Pledge Element 7 really focuses on those adaptation actions. So if you want to focus on those, that's where you would look. So another way to think about approaching these actions is by categorizing them based on kind of what type they are. So there are some that focus on policy and planning, others are capital projects, and then there's also a broad category of community engagement options as well. So some examples of policy or planning actions would be that complete streets policy. There's an option for an environmentally preferable purchasing policy. But also if your municipality is due for a comprehensive plan, that could be an action, including sustainability elements in that. So these, you know, some of them are a little bit more easily attainable. Some of them are really long planning efforts. So capital projects, an example could be planning an infrastructure for biking and walking, could be cleaning up a brownfield site or redeveloping a brownfield site. Those are some examples. And then for community engagement, there's a whole pledge element 9, which focuses on inspiring and informing the public. So those would be things like a local climate action website, doing events to talk about climate related issues, things like that. So if you kind of look through the menu and you sort things through and maybe do a combination of these sorts of actions or just build upon them as it makes sense. So we have kind of different approaches to kind of pairing these actions together. So the first diagram shows an example about kind of how each action is interconnected. So these all kind of focus around alternative energy topics and supporting bicycling and a walkable community. So these actions all kind of inform each other and play into each other. So that might be a great way to pair things together. Another thing that you see really frequently in the Climate Smart Communities program is more of this kind of sequential thing where one action will lay the foundational work for other actions that follow. So lots of examples in the program. The one that we have here is like if you chose to complete a government operations greenhouse gas inventory, that data would maybe inform goal setting for climate action. So you could complete a government operations climate action plan based on those goals that you set based on your emissions. And then so to achieve those goals, you might want to conduct a renewable energy feasibility study, which would help you reduce emissions. And once you complete that study, you may identify that you could install solar panels or solar energy on town hall, for example. So another example is in Pledge Element 3. You could go ahead and do a government fleet inventory to understand kind of what your government vehicles are like. This could inform a fleet efficiency policy. And then based on that policy, you could right size your fleet or maybe introduce some electric vehicles or advanced vehicles. And those are all kind of individual actions that you earn points for, but they're very much sequential. So it's just kind of, it makes sense to move on to those next steps. Oops. So I guess the last words of wisdom I'll give to you is just keep in mind that some of the actions might not be relevant to your community, and that's okay. We're certainly not encouraging you to say yes to everything. And this whole process is really about celebrating large and small victories from your municipality, what you've done, and kind of your planning effort so far. And we also just want to develop that clear and intentional path forward with community buy-in and support. So that's what this whole process is about. And I was going to open things up to questions, but I think maybe that will happen after Tara presents. So we'll skip that, but we have here the contact information for those who will be working on this project. Really feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. That was such a helpful and clear explanation of the process ahead. So now we will, Tara will tell you a bit about the Capital District Regional Planning Commission and will explain the support they will be offering Chatham and the Village of Kinderhook in the next few months. So Tara, please go ahead when you're ready.
Thanks so much, Paige. And Kelsey did a wonderful job of explaining certification and all of that. And I think what I'm going to try and do here is just, it's not irrelevant because hopefully you all will get there at some point, but kind of show you what Chatham and Kinderhook Village have done and how close they are to certification, as well as kind of the process that we went through in assessment with them. So, okay. Can you see this? I don't know if you can see my presenter view or I love two screen life.
We're seeing the presenter view.
Okay, let me take this off. Well, I'll get talking as I figure this out. So I'm showing the slide so that you kind of understand who CDRPC is, if you don't. So we have a sustainability team here. CDRPC has been around since about 1967, I believe is the year. And we traditionally worked in the 4-county capital region, which kind of the Albany, Schenectady, Saratoga, Rensselaer counties. In 2016, we received a grant from NYSERDA to provide technical assistance for the Clean Energy Communities program, basically to kind of go out and help municipalities, especially those with limited resources, to kind of get through the program and achieve grants and designation. One of the actions in that program is the Climate Smart Communities Program certification. So we've been helping communities with that certification, but unfortunately haven't had really the full funding to take communities very far with that, just because our time constraints and clean energy program and grants were very taxing. But in 2022, which is this year, we signed a contract with the DEC to basically have the same support for the capital region, which is an 8-county area, for the Climate Smart program. So we brought on an additional coordinator. We basically have many more hours to support, attend community meetings, get through certification, but also help with greenhouse gas inventories and climate action planning, as well as climate resiliency planning, which we're partnering with Cornell Cooperative Extension, Columbia Green on. So an exciting amount of money that's coming from the state to support these types of programs and help communities, especially communities that don't have a lot of resources. And, you know, we're hoping to just drive it from there. I just wanted to show this slide because I know some of you work with Haley Belkanoff, and she is our team member here too. So just so you're aware of kind of how everything is tied in together, because there's a lot of hands lifting these, you know, kind of all the boats. So we want to try to explain how it's all happening. So again, there's 2 programs here, Clean Energy and Climate Smart. I just want to, even though we're focused on Climate Smart, really highlight the Clean Energy program. As I think Stephanie from Valatia mentioned, it is much easier. It's intended to be that way, but the grants are there, the match-free grants. So I would definitely recommend, you know, pursuing both programs, using the grant money from Clean Energy to kind of leverage some other actions, and just keep things kind of moving forward. So this is just a big map of the clean energy community programs in New York State, or municipalities working on clean energy or designated as clean energy, which means you do 4 out of, I think there's about 14 high impact actions now in that program. And all the blue ones have received grants, so match-free grants. So definitely recommend doing both programs at the same time. And then here's the Climate Smart program, which is a lot of overlap, and you can see less registered and less certified, but that's because, as we all know, it's more challenging. There's a lot more actions. There's the adaptation piece, which is so critical to climate. So it goes beyond mitigation, as Kelsey was mentioning, and kind of moves into this resiliency and having just this whole community effort when we're thinking of climate change. So back to Chatham and Kinderhook Village, and kind of where we've gone with them. So I came on to the staff at CDRPC to support the programs in 2017. When I came on, both of these communities had very robust climate smart task forces, and they were already up and running, and I was introduced to them by my predecessor, and it was all very exciting. And they're still moving along, and it just shows you that there is, you know, a benefit to these climate smart programs. They've done a lot. I think the thing is they just need to submit the action. So it's kind of the paper pushing exercise as opposed to the we need to do things. They've done a lot of things. So you can see here on the left kind of part of the screen, this is Chatham. I don't have a header, but they did an EV charging station with the DEC ZEV grants back in 2018, I think it was. They used Clean Energy Community for this cordwood boiler. I know it's not a very beautiful picture. Who wants to see a cordwood boiler? But they're saving a ton of money in their highway garage. They got about $35,000 from NYSERDA to do that. And then I've been working with Deb on a greenhouse gas inventory to kind of just track their government operations and understand their energy usage over time, which again is something we can provide free to any municipality. And then the next step, hopefully, is a climate action plan for them. And then on the right here, we've got the Village of Kinderhook. So they installed an EV charging station with the ZEB grants back in Bill, probably 2018, I think, as well. And you can
19.
see 19. Thanks.
January.
January
so
19.
cold.
Oh, it looks cold. You can see the wonderful signage there. And then this year they received grant funding from NYSERDA's Clean Energy Program, $35,000 a few years ago, but finally post-COVID were able to install the solar installation at both their town highway garage as well as their firehouse. So really exciting. Basically got a free solar installation from NYSERDA for that work. So just shows you some of the work that they've been doing. And each of the committees meets monthly. They vary from probably 5 to, I think Chatham has maybe 10 members or so on their committee now. I'm able to attend those monthly meetings with them and kind of just keep driving them forward. But the next phase of our journey is going to be submitting paperwork to the DEC to get that certification credit. So now I will just show you, let's see here. The process that I went through with Deb to basically kind of organize. And it does look we have an Excel spreadsheet. I agree with Kelsey that the portal itself is very difficult to organize or plan your certification process, gather paperwork, understand what you have, what you don't have. So, we've kind of moved communities through a similar process of take a spreadsheet, organize what you're doing, understand the actions, the points that you're achieving, and then let's start to gather the documentation and then upload all at the same time, because I think that seems clear in my brain. I think it seems clearer in most people's. We are using a Google Drives format basically here. So you can see here, this is just the checklist that the DEC provides on their website. And we've kind of just added a few columns for planning purposes. You can see here the community planning columns H through L. I hope you don't mind, Deborah, that I'm showing this, but it's a great example. Basically, we're kind of going through the current points, what they've got in progress. So maybe we've got a few outstanding things, some notes that we've been kind of going through. There's a time last completed because a lot of these actions have a look back. So if you've done them too long ago, they won't count. Obviously, we want to track the darker is, and this is how the DEC had it, is the priority action. So we need to make sure we've got the 3 of those. And, we're seeing Ask Tammy, this is, we're basically kind of just checking up and making progress. And we're going to be doing that weekly going forward to push to the certification deadline in January and make sure we've just really got all the pieces of this. And then at the bottom here, you can see that as we go through all of the actions, there is a kind of just roll up. So you can see how many points they basically have in the bank and then how many kind of we're just waiting for some paperwork. And this totals 153. So they should be well over the threshold, which is always recommended, of course, because you want to make sure that, if they reject some, that you've got, enough there. So back to this is how we're basically helping to organize the community's documentation. Once you upload to the portal, it gets a little weird. You have to download it again. So we thought having this Google Drive, Deborah has access to it, so we'll do a few other committee members to include information for each of the categories. So you'll see PE1, there's a folder for each of the actions. The yellow means that there's something in that folder. If I go to like PE4, they haven't completed any of these actions. So we can just know there's no documentation in those. Let's see, if I go to like PE7, they've done culverts and dams, but they haven't done anything else in here yet. So we know that that's a folder we're going to need to upload. But basically, it's just an organizational way to kind of, for me to add things, Deborah to add things, committee members to add things, and basically kind of all get to the point where we've got the documentation, we upload to spreadsheet, and then we upload to the portal. So yeah, I think that's it. That's the gist of, the process. I'll be going through the similar process with Kinderhook. We've got a lot of their files. It's just a matter of organizing them. And then the good thing about this too is once you've uploaded everything, you've got a backup of all the files kind of organized. I think that makes my organized brain, or what I try to do, organized brain, feel better about things too, because you don't want to lose those and you want to have them for future recertifications. There's a lot of reasons to have, have those in an organized place, because the portal it's there, but who knows how safe that'll be in the future, and that is the end of my presentation. So I hope that's helpful. And I hope that inspires you to see what you can do, and wish Kinderhook and Chatham luck for their deadlines coming up.
Thank you so much, Tara and Kelsey.